Welcome to our annual public budget presentation. We want to take this evening to explain our finances, where we are, the COVID funds and the different aspects, how that impacts the budget, and the other realities we're dealing with the advent of COVID-19. First, we just wanted to take a moment to show everyone, if you look, in 18-19, we were running a deficit of approximately 8.2 million. Through budget cuts, restructuring, changing how we do things, we had dropped that loss, annual loss, to 1.7 million. Then came COVID. The COVID costs, whether it be cyber, whether it be loss of funding through business mercantile, business privilege, earned income tax, or real estate tax, basically has recreated this deficit. Just to give you an idea, our funding sources. In our normal year, we have 66% that comes from the state, 7% that's federal, and 27% which is local. But to give you an idea, that 27% that is local breaks into two pots. One is your business mercantile and all of those taxes, which is approximately 9% of our total funding source, and 18% of that local, or 18 percentage points of the whole in our revenue source, is local real estate taxes. The issue comes down to the fact that the only really controllable source of revenue is real estate taxes, and it's approximately 18% of our entire budget. This kind of goes along with that. We have a state subsidy at 66% of the budget. They're going to be flat funding us. They have told us this several times, and we need to expect that there will be no change in state funding for the next approximately 4 school years. That translates into approximately a $500,000 loss per year over 4 years, which translates into a $2 million budgetary impact at the end of this, what we would say, the COVID effect period. We have received COVID funds to offset some of these losses. We have federal funds which can be used to supplant, of approximately 34 million. And we have federal funds designated for learning loss of approximately 4.8 million. They are projecting a 6-year recovery window in order for the full economy to get back on its feet for our district. When you're talking about earned income tax, business privilege, mercantile, all of our real estate taxes, they are predicting it's going to take 6 years, and the federal funding is designed to be done in 3. Now, here's a situation with our budget we want everybody to be aware of. We have cut millions out of our budget in the last 3 years. Approximately $6 million and change has been cut from the budget. It puts us in a situation where our budget has a hard expense of approximately 94% of what we spend is contractual, bid, or otherwise essential, and it can't be trimmed further because it's all hard costs. You know, teachers' contracts, busing contracts, fuel contracts, utilities, food service, all these kinds of things which actually are structured and they can't be eliminated. And as you can tell, we have about 6% of the budget which will be considered fungible or flexible, but we've already taken $6 million out of that pot over the last 3 years in order to right the budget issues we were dealing with prior to COVID. Here's a big hit to us. Cyber charter school costs for the Altoona area school district have gone up by approximately $1.3 million this year alone. The projections, the updated projections are it's going to be about $1.8 million in increased costs. We have a full K-12 cyber program, which we run, and we have 500 students in our K-12 cyber program. Our annual expenses to run that program are approximately what, Camilla? About $1 million. 500 kids, $1 million. We have 325 students in outside cybers. $4.5 million in overhead. Quite simply, you can make a difference. You can contact your senators, your legislators to support cyber charter funding reform. This will make a big difference in our budget moving forward, because we can do 500 students for $1 million, and we're spending $4.5 million for 325 kids. And that's just how the cyber charter schools are funded in the state of Pennsylvania. Two other things that impact us: annual PESER's retirement, which is an estimated annual increase of 2.7%. It goes up regardless. We don't have control over how much the PESER's fund costs go up. And then we have mandated expenditures, and this is everything from special ed, transportation, what all is in this pot. Primarily special ed of $8.5 million, which increases on annual approximately 14%. These are hard cost increases, which are beyond our control as a school district. We do receive funding from federal and state for special ed services, but the reality is those funds cover approximately, is it 50%, 60%? So everybody can hear that. In 2010, we had a 77% reimbursement for special ed. This school year, that reimbursement will be 50%. And the reason for that is simple. We have students who have to receive services. First of all, it's right that we educate these children and give them all the opportunities we possibly can. But at the same time, those expenses are going unfunded by the federal laws that are requiring those services. And that's creating an impact, a budgetary impact, which falls to the local taxpayer to support. A couple of things on federal funding and the short-term solution to a long-term issue. We've talked about this before. Revenue recovery is estimated to take 6 years. Real estate tax is our only true option to increase revenue. We're expecting flat funding to basic education from the state subsidy. Even the state, we received a signed letter from the Pennsylvania Senate Education Committee to understand that all of these ESSER funds that we received, all these CARES funds, all of this COVID money that district has received is going to go away. And we're going to have a fiscal cliff in 2024 when this funding is diminished. On the other side, our expenditures continue to increase. We're going to see, and as I stated before, 94% of our budget is hardwired. Things that we have done and things we are continuing to do. We are pursuing changes in health insurance and prescription plans to generate additional revenue and to create less expenditures. Students returning from outside cyber, we are actively recruiting. We are building our internal cyber program to the point where we are literally shifting teachers from the classroom into the cyber program to cover our cyber kids and to ensure, first of all, continuity of quality education, and second of all, to maximize our ability to deliver that instruction and minimize our loss of students to outside cybers. And then we're continually making and reassessing and readjusting our transportation, whether it's a bus route, whether it's a mode of a van versus private transport, and all the different options that we have. We're constantly reassessing that to maximize our savings in those areas. Local revenue proposed tax increase. Why? It's necessary to close forecasted deficit in 2024. Maintain and advance student programming, allow for capital improvements to existing buildings, continue to operate and maintain facilities for the community. Quite simply, if we're going to continue our programs, we have to fund them. This just gives you a graphic of how our taxes have been reasonably flat over the last 35 years. We've had eight tax increases in 35 years. No tax change from 1986 to 2005. Prior to 2010, the millage rate was applied to 75% of the assessed value. So people will look at 2010 and they'll see a shift, but actually that shift is just a change in how the tax was assessed, and the actual millage went down in that year. It dropped from approximately 65 to 55 with that change from the 75% rule to the 100% rule. Expected taxpayer impact. If the board chooses to raise taxes to the index over the next 4 years, quite simply, 50% of our homes, 50% of our residents, population, homeowners can expect an increase of approximately $18.80. 39%, almost 40%, who would have a house between a value of $69,000 and $150,000 can expect an average increase of $40.57. This is for a single year, correct? And if 150,000 to 300,000, which is approximately 9% of our residents, $81.14, leaving the 2% of our population who have real estate values of greater than $300,000, and they will have an increase which will be prospectively larger based on the size of their holdings. Quite simply, when we're talking about the impact on the average household, we're looking at $18.80. We're talking about the impact on 90% of our households, we're talking an average of $40.57. It isn't until we get up into the very high extreme that we see taxes taking a much larger leap. And it's all proportional based on value. So back to that. Average taxpayer increase will be $102 over 4 years. That's if the board chooses to raise taxes every year through this COVID crunch. The average annual would be $25.50. That's based on every taxpayer. Right. So that average property value is $94,000, and that tax increase is $25.50. The estimated impact on student education and budget deficit control, if the board were to choose to do this over the next 4 years, would be $3.6 million. Just to give you an idea of where we sit in the county, Spring Cove is at 11 mills. Bellwood is at 9.3. Holliesburg is at 9.0. Williamsburg is 8.8. Tyrone is 6.87. And we are 6.2. We are the lowest taxing entity in public schools in Blair County. We are also the lowest taxing public school in the state of Pennsylvania. Final thought on COVID relief funding. Thinks it's going to go towards PSERS, contracted services, utilities, salaries and wages, They all continue to increase. The fiscal cliff is going to occur, and we need to be prepared because we've spent a lot of time getting this budget under control. If we're not careful over the next 4 years, when we come out of this COVID period, we're going to have budgetary issues which will be just as out of control as when we walked in 3 years ago and we found and looked for the massive cuts to get the budget back under control. And simply, we need to prepare, because if we don't, these changes are going to occur whether we want them to or not. And it's going to have a definite impact on what we can deliver as a district.